Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B. Moving into a different location today as I'm changing my office around. So hopefully everything goes smooth. But if there's some weird audio stuff, we'll be getting it figured out in the next couple weeks. Main topic today, hitting on the Super Bowl. What did you think of the game? Well, actually, I probably shouldn't even ask you because it was on too late. Remember, you said you weren't going to watch it?
No, I said I would. And exactly what ended up happening. The game ended, and then I ended up being hyped because it was a great game, and then I ended up going to bed at freaking midnight.
The game was over. So I was watching the ceremony, and I'm like, oh, crap. I wonder if Matt fell asleep. And I looked at the time, and they were already getting the trophy. It was only 10:13. So the game had to end sometime before that.
Well, it was over because I checked it because I knew you'd be busting my chops about it, but legitimately was like, well, hype, and then I couldn't sleep.
Well, we can start at the beginning because I thought it started at 6 because I think I talked to that, and then someone called me out and said, you know, the game starts at 6:30. I'm like, 6:30 doesn't even make a difference. Like I knew when I was trying to calculate it, I knew the ceremony ended at like 10 usually, and so I'm watching the beginning of the game, and they announce the singer for like one of the songs. They showed a totally different girl. And then the entire time I'm thinking, well, who is the girl that they showed? Because I still don't know. And I'm like, why did the cameraman think that that was the person? And so I look online, and that was like the first comment was like, who is that girl? Who's that girl? I'm like, all right, so it's not only me that's crazy and wondering who they showed and I think they were on the field. So like, why were they on the field? So it threw me off at the beginning of the game because you know how they always have the prop bets and who's singing. And then like even, I don't know if you saw this controversy, but apparently one of the apps like Apple Music, maybe, I think it was them, they did a curated playlist of all the groups, but like one of them was like the LA Choir or something. And they put music from some other band with that same like acronym, whatever they used, instead of the actual performers from the Super Bowl. So if you're trying to listen, you'd just hear some random group that had nothing to do with the Super Bowl, but it made their way into the playlist. So more just unprepared. Like you would think, hey, this is very organized and we have like these groups set up, and they just they have no idea. That's why it's always like, well, who did it? Was it NBC? Or was it?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hating their coverage lately. Everyone always said how they were the best. Like, oh, Sunday Night Football is the best. And I used to think, like, yeah, Sunday Night Football is pretty good. But now I'm just wondering if it's because that was the night, like, your college, you're out at the bar, you're watching the game. So it just, like, has a different vibe, you know? Because now I watch it and it's like, what am I doing? This is pretty bad. But I was kind of annoyed by the coverage. And just the commercials and stuff, everyone gets hyped about those. I really hate them. I'm at the point now where I kind of tone out the commercials just because with so many streaming apps, you know how like they usually don't even show them. Like ESPN sometimes just has a black screen that is telling you that they're showing commercials to other people, but not you if you're streaming it. So it's like, oh, so I don't know. I didn't catch any of those. Were there any that stood out to you?
No, there really wasn't. Like, I know we're technically supposed to be watching all of the commercials, but I wasn't.
Yeah, that's the main thing where I watched the game, and I even, so you know how they did the supercut? Because I was trying to keep the track of the game and how long it went, since I was giving you a hard time last week, and I thought it started at 6, and I was like, yeah, it's usually done by like 10 or 11, and the game itself, so the NFL put together their little highlight clip, it was 16 minutes long, and it had most of the plays from the game that I remembered, and so I watched it again, and I'm like, man, you could watch the entire game without all those commercials and all the fluff. And it really didn't have anything to do with it. But overall, I thought it was a good game. They didn't really throw a lot of flags until the end, so that it made the flags kind of stand out. But even when I was watching it, I didn't think like, oh, they're really making it unfair here, or like they really want the Rams to win. Because, I mean, I didn't really want the Bengals to win. I don't really care, though, you know? So it wasn't like I was pulling for a team and I would have been upset. It was almost like, hey, that guy's holding. Oh, they threw the flag this time. And then ESPN pointed out, like, the time before they held him worse. So I'm like, I don't know if that was a makeup call, but like, I just felt like it worked out to the end where both teams had a chance. I don't think officiating really blew it. The one that really got me was the face mask on Ramsey. Was it the second half?
Yeah, it was like, right at the beginning of the third quarter.
Yeah, he like ripped his head off, and I was like, oh, that's a flag. And even the receiver knew because he turned around, and the first thing he did was look for the flag. And so I'm like, there's no flag at all? And then I'm like, I guess maybe they didn't know he got his face mask, but you could tell that he ripped his head down. So I honestly don't know how they missed it. So if any Bengals fan complains about the officiating at the last 2 minutes, it's like, that touchdown should have been off the board. And the Bengals did absolutely nothing in the second half. Well, they have 4 straight punts.
Yeah.
Do something. And then you win the game. Right?
And, with the Bengals, that was one of the things that we talked about last week was that you knew Aaron Donald was going to be right in the middle of that defense. Like, why would you just keep Burrow doing those straight dropbacks? I thought that was such a bad scheme thing. Like they could have moved the pocket a little bit, tried to get him outside, or at least protect him to like change the launching point so they couldn't just tee off on him.
To me, it felt like they thought that they had the momentum. They had the 2 turnovers. I mean, the second half, it started off with that non-face mask touchdown. Then they had the interception, which they only got, 3 points out of? But it really felt like they had the momentum. And so I thought that they got too conservative once again, almost like the Falcons game on like a lesser scale because they didn't have that big of a lead. But I thought that they were just kind of like, all right, now we're going to do our thing. We're just going to drop you back. We're going to run Mixon a few times. And that's really going to be it. And we're going to hope that we can get another turnover or 2 and win the game. But then at the end of the game, they're +2 in turnovers. And I mean, they have to be kicking themselves. It's like, take some shots. What are you doing? I mean, once they got the ball back after the Rams scored at the end, Chase had a big play he broke off. And I'm like, they could have been doing this how often, Why wait until they lose the lead? That's what I don't understand. Like, you have a young quarterback, you have a young team. The Rams are stacked with veteran talent. Put them away. Don't let them hang around. And that's what I want to see. Like, you have young coach, and then they come out and they're like, yeah, we were really close. And then a bunch of articles came out. They were like, the Bengals rebuild just isn't there yet. It's like, well, what else do you want them to do? They had a team. They had the lead. What else would have done? Like, you would have get him a better line. Like you said, move him around. Like, if you're getting crushed every play, which what did they have? Like, did they give up 7 sacks?
Yes.
I thought I saw something like that.
Yeah, because they tied. It was, at one point it was 7, but I think it might have even been 8 by the time it was all said and done.
Because I'm like watching it. Well, it might have been close. But I don't think they gave him a sack on that last play where he threw it away. And he almost had the guy anyway, cutting it back. I think if he would have threw a step, like if he would have threw it instead of holding on to it, I think he was thought he can get away on that very last play. If he would have threw it instead of waiting until he got wrapped and twisted around, I think he would have had that guy down the sideline, and he would have had who knows what, at least in the field goal range. And wouldn't it have been crazy? Their own missed extra point would have been
back to bite them.
Yeah, the one that sends it to overtime. Then crazy. But I just don't understand why you're looking at the Bengals. I know that everything's not there yet, but why write it off like, oh yeah, we deserve to lose because we didn't have the talent? It's like, no, you had a chance to win. Your coaching got conservative. Put them away. Put them away. They're not coming back on you. And then even when OBJ went down, it was almost like the Bengals are going to be gifted this Super Bowl, right?
Oh, I thought, though, they're in trouble.
They had the misfortune after that, or that might have been before that. And I thought, they're not going to do anything. All they have to do is cover Kupp. And then they didn't even do it, Matt. Did you see that he had that no-look pass where it was like he looked off the guy, but all the guy had to do was just not bite on that fake.
Guess what? We criticize the NFL and all those media people for lack of camera angles. That should win some kind of film award because he looks so hard that you see he pulls the free safety over and just opens the window for Kupp to make that. Like, that was perfect.
But let's be honest, that camera angle had jack shit to do with the game. They never have the angle down the sideline that you need for like,
I know.
hey, was that a first down? But they have some random end zone view to like look at his eyes. It's like, who needs that other than one random highlight that you might never know? Because even in that same angle, if it was an interception or something, you're getting the back of the guy. It's like, you're not really using that. It's only just to do like for the NFL films, like quarterback dropping back type thing. But he looked him off. The other guy was already covered though. So he made a jump like he was going to try to intercept the ball, and then he just got torched behind him. But it was almost like, just play it safe. You guys have the lead. What are you doing? You know he's coming. Why pull off Kupp? Because you're watching Stafford's eyes. How do you know he's not going to pump fake? It wasn't like he had pressure on him. The Bengals weren't really applying any pressure.
No. Well, I think they were almost following that similar game plan where they were going to drop more into coverage and just not get beat like deep down the field.
Well, it didn't matter because that's not how they're built. Like, I know Kupp built, didn't he beat the Bucks like with 10 seconds left or whatever down the middle of the field? But normally he's just like running like longer out patterns, and that's how they scored their touchdown. He like was in the back of the end zone, and it's like, who was supposed to be on him? Like the safety just letting him go towards that back corner. I think it was his first touchdown. And then they threw like that little fade to him. But even then it was like, I think it was Eli Apple on him. I'm like, you can't win one-on-one? It's not like he's like Randy Moss. So give him credit, dude. He was a beast. They said he had like the triple crown of like receiving that Jerry Rice had won over a couple of seasons. He did it in 1 year. Super Bowl MVP, like reception leader and all this stuff. I'm like, man, give the guy credit.
That's pretty good.
He has to be hoping that Stafford comes back, right? Because he could retire on top. If I was him, I'd retire on top. And then, I mean, we can even get into the next topic. So, Matt Stafford, do you think he should be in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know.
No.
I mean,
why? Richard Sherman went on this big rant about it. And I'm saying right now that if you look at the stats, I know he's like 12th overall or something all time. But they're the same people that are saying that Eli Manning shouldn't get in are the same ones saying Matt Stafford should. What's the difference, Matt? Eli Manning's better in like every category, has 2 Super Bowls, so he's even better in that one. But yet you're going to put Stafford in because he played for the Lions? Like, do the Lions just need a guy in? At this point, I just don't see it. Like, yeah, there are a lot of them, and I was looking through the list, and even Joe Flacco, in terms of like recent active quarterbacks, he's like 6th on the list of passing. And I think he was ahead of Russell Wilson still. So it's like, all right, if you're just going by stats, is like Joe Flacco going to get in? He won the Super Bowl. He's checked it off. He's not as high as Matt Stafford. But I mean, you are playing in a more pass-heavy era of the NFL. And at some point, do you just put everybody in? Like, is Phillip Rivers in then? And if so, why? What did he do? I don't even think Matt Stafford was how many Pro Bowls was he even in? Couldn't have been many. And then I saw a lot of people calling out Larry Fitzgerald. I mainly Pitt fans, probably. I hang out with too many Pitt fans, what the problem is. But they were saying that Aaron Donald's way better than Fitzgerald because he's won like the defensive or whatever MVP for the NFL, and Larry Fitzgerald never did that as a wide receiver. And like, so he's a better pro. But I'm like, you can't really look at that for wide receivers. It's not like they give that award to receivers. It's almost like their favorite quarterback, you know? So like, you can't just point out one award. Larry Fitzgerald had more tackles on interceptions than he had dropped passes. Like, he was a beast. I don't know if he's the best. I don't think he has the highest stats or whatever. So maybe Aaron Donald's the best, but like, don't write off Larry Fitzgerald. That's all I'm saying. Larry Fitzgerald was pretty good.
Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald, really good.
And like,
and he was a toe tap away from being a Super Bowl winner.
And Pitt fans, I know you guys don't have a lot to cheer about, but why take down your own guy? That'd be like Michigan talking trash on like Charles Woodson because he doesn't have as many Super Bowls as Tom Brady. It's like, yeah, Charles Woodson really sucked, right? It's like, no, they can both be good. They both play different positions, you idiots. Like, be happy about both guys, you know? Because that's basically what Pitt fans are doing. Like, oh yeah, Larry Fitzgerald, if only he would have been defensive player or player of the year a few more times, Like, why was it Charles Woodson more defensive player of the year a few more times? Like, give me a break. Like both your guys. I don't get it. Let's see. What else did you have for the Super Bowl?
Now I'm drawing a blank. Clearly the obvious stat, the team with the most Florida State guys won.
One? Well, both teams had an even amount of Michigan guys, Matt, so you can't really write that off.
There was Cam Akers and Jalen Ramsey for the Rams.
Jalen Ramsey got burned on that one touchdown pass, Matt. Really embarrassing for him. And
really embarrassing.
And Cam Akers, I could have did a better job, Matt. He averaged like 1 yard a carry. And
I don't think you could.
There was one point in the game where I was actually wondering if he had bet on the other team. Because if you think back to that Buccaneers game, the Bucs are coming back. Who fumbles the ball? Akers. Who kept getting tackled like with no one touching him barely? Cam Akers. I was like,
but you know what?
Holy crap! What the heck?
This is my thinking. They rushed him back, recovering from his torn Achilles, and they're like, we don't have literally anyone else to handle this right now.
Henderson looked so much better on that one run that he played the rest of the series. I'm like, I don't even know if we're going to see Cam Akers again.
And then you did.
And then we did, and he broke one tackle. And even the coach was like, yeah, I was really pumped when Akers finally broke that tackle. It's like his interview. He's like, and he got 2 more yards, and I was like, yeah, must be pumped to see 2 yards instead of a 1 yard carry. Like whenever you needed it. And it was in the highlight film because I was like, what run is he talking about? And he did break a tackle. I don't think it was like a 3rd down or 4th down, but he did get him down to the 8 yard line. And I'm like, that's the play coach must have been talking about where he got all his yards for the day. 4 yard carry. But that stood out to me.
Mattered because it pushed it down. He pushed it down to the goal line.
Well, the only thing I was thinking is, man, if they had a running game, they could really just squeeze the Bengals because the Bengals weren't doing anything in offense.
Yeah.
But when OBJ went down, they didn't really have a running game, and I was like, I don't know if they're going to be able to do anything. Like, both teams are kind of just stale at that point. But I don't know. You did have...
And there was the missing one that Auden Tate for the Bengals was injured, but that would have been the 3rd Florida State guy that would have been Super Bowl.
I was going to say, you did send me the list of teams with the most players. It was LSU and your Florida Gators at 5, Matt. They had the most.
Yeah, and in true fashion, there was a Gator that pulled the first penalty, just running out with his with his sandals on.
I know. And who's in the booth for NBC? I can't even remember. But they were really mad. He was really mad about that. He's like, why would you embarrass your team? But I'm thinking, it's the Super Bowl, and that penalty really doesn't mean anything. Like, it had 0 effect on the outcome of the game. So let the man celebrate. Let him have some fun. But
there were so many comments on there that were like, "Oh, he's definitely going to get cut." Showing up to the Bengals facility.
If I was a coach, I'd just be like, "Come on, man." But I get it. You get the turnover and you're pumped. I did have the total list though. Fox updated it. Super Bowl appearances all time by colleges. Number 1, Matt, Michigan, tied with another Florida school, Miami.
2 schools that are both living in the 90s.
Hey, we're Big Ten champs this past year, Matt. Did you not remember?
No, I didn't.
Finished 3rd overall. When's the last time Florida State finished that high? Bowden? No, I guess, was it Crab Legs? Crab Legs with Winston?
Wow. Look. This is how you know Michigan has fallen way off when you're just like, we finally won our conference. We finally beat our rival.
Matt, all I'm saying is number 1 Super Bowl appearances, top 5 finish, basically top 3. Great season and looking up. USC is 3rd on this list, and then Penn State surprisingly is 4th. Because remember that graphic they put out about Penn State guys playing in every Super Bowl except all those other ones?
Except on the ones where they don't.
And teams still use that meme. Wasn't that the Super Bowl graphic that they did? I think it was what it was. And then UCLA, LSU, then Notre Dame, Georgia, Tennessee, and Nebraska fill out the top 10. People are surprised that Alabama's not on here, but I think in time they probably will. Like the past 10 years of Saban. But you never know. Ohio State's not on the list. And I've been saying it on the show, Matt. The easiest way to pick a bust is to pick an Ohio State guy. I mean, maybe that was Joe Burrow. He got out of Ohio State, but maybe he went there long enough to curse him into never winning a Super Bowl. Right? We don't know. We don't know if the LSU Magic down there is going to be able to get him over that hump. Because he had a chance. Like I said, all he had to do was do something. Do something with the ball, and he couldn't do it. And they just let the Rams come back and win the game. And then he even had a chance to just get in field goal range and couldn't get it done. He did kind of hurt his knee, and I was wondering if that affected him at the end of the game, but he had plenty of time to put the game away before that, and he couldn't do it. Let's see what else. Yeah, I mean, in terms of surprising, like on the other list, teams that had the most players playing, I think it was surprising that Washington, even though they've been in the playoffs recently, had 4 players, and then Purdue was up there. Because Purdue, it's like, seriously? I think the smaller schools that had like multiple, like FAU, I don't think that's really a sign of Lane Kiffin. A lot of those other schools, like Delaware's on there too. So, a lot of spread out talent. It's not really as SEC heavy as what people expect based on the propaganda from ESPN, you know?
Fair enough.
Hey, I didn't have college football on here, but I did want to bring up, since that reminded me when I brought up ESPN. So ESPN and the Big Ten have started their negotiations. So for the TV network deal. So right now, the games are split between ESPN and Fox. So if you listen to the show in the fall, you know, we've talked about this before, but they rotate picks. So the biggest game's either going to be usually game day, Saturday night. They might get a Penn State, Ohio State game. They might pick Michigan versus Penn State or something like that. And then Fox, they alternate. So it's basically whoever gets the Ohio State, Michigan game that year, then the next one's going to either pick Penn State, Ohio State, or Penn State, Michigan, or something like that. And they go back and forth. They want to keep the same amount of games, but CBS is interested, and so is NBC. NBC, the rumor is that they want to do a doubleheader with Notre Dame, which to me would be kind of annoying. Like, could you imagine catching, because they're not going to get the bigger games, I don't think so, but they might get like Michigan playing Indiana, and then it would be on before like Notre Dame plays, well, who do they play these days? Navy? Like, Wake Forest. So like, how underwhelming I think would that NBC slate be? Because like, you know you're not getting the best. You probably wouldn't even get Michigan on that. You'd probably get Indiana, Maryland, followed by Notre Dame, Wake Forest. Like, would that make you want to change your channel, Matt? No.
No.
There's no way. Even like people were complaining because the Notre Dame fans were saying they didn't know what Peacock was and how to get the internet. It's like, what are they learning at their school? They don't even know how to use like the internet. Like, well, their graduates aren't all 60 years old. Like, are you kidding me? But that's something big to watch because ESPN also does like the Monday Night Football bids and stuff. So if they end up having to spend a crap ton of money to keep the Big Ten, I wonder if that starts to shift some of their advertising away from the SEC. Because you can't be paying all this money to own the SEC and also spend a crap ton of money to buy the Big Ten and then be like, yeah, you know what, we're still going to keep shitting on them. Like it's bad for business at some point. But I also want to keep an eye on it for the Alliance too, because that might have a play in if they really cut that 8th game or that 9th conference game, and they're selling it as a package to like ESPN, where you're going to now get Big Ten ACC matchups. Is it really going to be a big time matchup? Like, are you going to get a Florida State Michigan matchup or a Florida State Ohio State matchup, or are you really going to get a more of a Florida State Rutgers? And then they're like, look at that crossover game.
We got the crossover.
Michigan plays Boston College, and we're like, oh my gosh. Why am I watching this on ESPN3? Because that's what I'll get. But getting back to the NFL stuff, I don't think I really have much else for the game itself. Do you have anything else for the Super Bowl?
No.
I did want to talk about the halftime, though. I thought there was a little bit of disrespect to Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. I honestly thought that they should have did the whole show. Don't get me wrong. I like 50 Cent. I didn't know he was on the halftime show, But when he came out, I was like, this is embarrassing. What are you doing? And also Eminem. Eminem should do his own Super Bowl headline. He should not have to share it with Dr. Dre. Like, I know Dr. Dre helped bring him up and wrote his beats or whatever. Come on. Eminem's big enough that he should do the halftime show by himself. Throwing Mary J. Blige in there, is that who it was?
Yep.
That was kind of felt awkward to me. And so, but I'm like, why are you putting so many just different groups together, right? Didn't they let The Weeknd or something perform all by himself? I can't remember all the halftime shows.
But there were a lot of... Recently, there have been more of the halftime shows that are having multiple people perform together.
Like who, though?
Like J-Lo and Shakira.
Yeah, but that's only two people. That's what I'm saying. Make it Snoop Dogg and Dre. They each have how many hits, Matt? They only played 3 songs, and I think they were all off the Dr. Dre albums. I don't think Snoop played any of his stuff. And one of them was that Tupac California Love they threw in there, which I don't think people even... was that on a Dre album first? I don't even know. I'm going to look it up, halftime performers. Because before it would just be like, hey, here's Tom Petty. Or, hey, here's... wasn't the Rolling Stones that came out and they look so old?
Yeah, they had to get them because Janet Jackson showed her boob.
Hey, I saw the Rolling Stones live in concert at Carter Finley Stadium, NC State Stadium, after that, and they still were pretty good. So I just think that this Super Bowl was just a bad move for them. So like, oh yeah, so here. So yeah, you're right. So last year was just The Weeknd. You're not telling me that Snoop Dogg has more hits than him? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's my old age showing. But then you're right, Shakira and Lopez. I don't remember that one. Maroon 5, I also don't remember.
How do you not remember the best halftime performance?
Dude, I'm a big Shakira fan. So I don't know why I don't remember that. Is that unless you're talking about Maroon 5 there? Who are you talking about as the best?
Shakira.
I remember Timberlake. I don't remember Lady Gaga. Coldplay, Katy Perry. Almost everyone was just one person. Bruno Mars, Beyonce.
Prince deserved to be by himself.
Madonna, Black Eyed Peas, The Who, Prince, Bruce Springsteen, Tom Petty. Tom Petty was what year? 2008. Is that the Steelers game? That's probably why I remember Tom Petty. Unless that was the year after. Yeah, so most of them were just, oh no, wait. If you go all the way back to 2004, that one had more people on it. It had Jessica Simpson, Janet Jackson, P. Diddy, Nelly, Kid Rock, and Timberlake. And then there was another one in 2000 that had Edward James Olmos, Georgia State University 80-person choir, with Enrique Iglesias, Tony Braxton, and Christina Aguilera with Phil Collins. So that's a weird mix. But I will just say, I think if they're going to, because they try to promote it as like, hey, we're really respecting rap here. Let's get our rap out of the way for the next 10 years and put all the performers on at one time. That's how it felt to me. Right? Because Eminem's from Michigan. They could have played a game. I'm sure they're going to have another Super Bowl in Detroit soon. When was the last one? The Steelers were in it. It was like Jerome Bettis' year, right? So let Eminem perform the entire time up there. Like, why have him do one song and then they said he knelt? I didn't even know that. I didn't see that.
It was right at the beginning of where
Matt, after 50 Cent was hanging upside down and his head looked almost a complete circle.
Oh, I said I think that was rough.
People were like, "Wait, what is this?" I'm like, "That's 50 Cent," and they're like, "Who? That's not who." I'm like, "Listen to the song. It's 50 Cent." Who do you guys think it is? And I don't know why he's upside down and why he looks like that, but
because he's probably hanging upside down for too long.
He's like, "Give me enough Botox so that my head is perfectly round."
But I thought, like, once he got himself unhooked and was like back on the girl, like on his feet, it wasn't as bad as what it initially looked. It was like at first, like, who is that? I was like, oh, I know who that is.
Matt, he's wearing a beater, I'm pretty sure, and yeah, but the worst part is they had to rehearse that. So like he had to have known that it was awkward. So I don't understand whose call that was. Where he's like, guys, I'm not really confident in myself. I need to hang upside down and do it. Like, was he supposed to do the whole thing upside down? I don't know. He came out. It was just weird to me. Then did you see Snoop Dogg? They said he was smoking weed on the stage.
I think a lot less of him now because he was smoking weed.
It's better than when he showed up at Kansas for their like Jayhawk night and he brought the strippers with the poles or whatever and they were dancing. That's what I was hoping. I was waiting to see something like that. Just a little bit different controversy than what they were making it out to be. Because I'm like, what did they not make him walk through that beeping machine? Did that not work? How did he get that in there, Matt? So doesn't someone wand you as you walk into the stadium? Because that literally could have been anybody. It's not like they have drug dogs at the walkthrough anyway.
Or do they?
I guess I don't know. Maybe they do. I guess I wouldn't know, actually. Anything else you have for the Super Bowl?
No.
The NFL Hall of Fame was announced after I said I wasn't going to talk any more about the Hall of Fames, but after my man Barry Bonds didn't get in. But I think we had talked about Tony Baselli and how he didn't get in for a while. So he finally made it. Cliff Branch, Leroy Butler, which I'm surprised. Art McNally, which I'll be honest, I thought he was already in as an official for some reason. Sam Mills, Richard Seymour, another guy I thought was already in. Dick Vermeil, and then Bryant Young, which I figured Bryant Young was already in because when's the last time he played? 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Because like he's old, right? He played with Steve Young. I don't know how much longer he played after that, but like he wasn't playing with Richard Seymour. Or hell, even Baselli, I don't think, at the later point of his career. Maybe he did play longer than I remember. But I think overall, I'm just happy for Baselli to get in. I knew, didn't Hutchinson get in last year? So like there were a couple other linemen that we had pointed out with Faneca. And so now they're all starting to get in. You really didn't see any quarterbacks come in this year. So I wondered if it was almost like a makeup year. And then it just worries me, like, are they just going to start throwing all these 2000s quarterbacks in? I mean, we already talked about it earlier in the show, but I don't want to rehash it. But that's kind of my worry going in. You're bringing in defensive guys from the 90s and coaches and officials and stuff, and that then you're going to be like, oh, yeah, guess what? 3 classes of 4 quarterbacks in a row. I was like, okay, we get it. Like we get it, guys. Now, you're not going to put any of these great defenders in. Like, is Sue going to get in? Because he's been around a lot. He's made a big impact.
I was surprised that they haven't pushed for Zach Thomas to get in, to be honest.
To be honest, I thought he was already in. But then again, I guess I need to look at the list because I thought half the guys they mentioned here were already in. I knew Baselli wasn't in because of the lineman snubs. But the rest of them I kind of... Like Cliff Branch, I didn't think would get in. Who else did I say? Leroy Butler, maybe? And Sam Mills, I didn't know. But like Sam Mills getting in over Zach Thomas. Is Junior Seau in?
No.
Because like those are some of the guys where you would think that they would be in, right? They might want to distance himself with Seau, though. Just how he went out.
Yeah, the CTE.
Yeah. But like honestly, at some point though, isn't it just supposed to be how you play as a football player? Like they started looping in personal stuff with my man Barry Bonds. It's like, isn't it supposed to be how awesome he was as a player? If he didn't break the actual rules, why are you keeping him out? It makes zero sense to me. Anything else you want to hit on the Hall of Fame?
No, just I was happy to see Branch got in because he was one of the better players that was on those teams for the Raiders. So I thought that was a good thing to get him in, and for Dick Vermeil.
Dick Vermeil, though, did he win a Super Bowl?
Greatest show on turf.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I keep forgetting he was there.
Because he was the original, couldn't win with the Eagles, and then like was just crushing the players with like his routines and practices, and caused himself to get out.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of those coaches, too, I wonder how many are not going to get in from like this era. Everyone always talks about like Andy Reid. Oh, he's a lock. He's been coaching for 100 years. And it's like, okay, we get it, guys that are commenting on the games. You're friends with Andy Reid. But like, if he never won the Super Bowl, did he really deserve to be in just because he coached a long time? Like, right? I mean, you can win a bunch of games and not win anything, you know? So
that is plausible.
Dan Marino. Which wouldn't it be weird if Joe Burrow did follow that same path? Because Marino, he made it his second year and then he never got back. And everyone's expecting like Joe Burrow to beat Tom Brady. Like, oh, he'll be there 9 more times. He has a good chance to beat Tom Brady's record. It's like, no, you don't know that. You don't know that. He looked like he got hurt at the end of the game. All it takes is a couple injuries. I know Tom got injured. Maybe that took away his 8th Super Bowl win. We don't know. But like, you got to stay healthy and you got to have playmakers to like continuously get back. Like, I don't have, I was looking at him. Remember, Joe Burrow is also older because he transferred after, I think he graduated from Ohio State. So he transferred later after never really playing at Ohio State to LSU. So he was older coming in. I think he's already like 25. He's like the same age as Patrick Mahomes. Right?
I think he's pretty close too.
So like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, he's going to be the next great thing. They think he's like 21. I'm looking it up. He's 25. So how old's Mahomes? Mahomes is 26. So he's only 1 year behind him. Feels like Mahomes has been in the league for like 5 years already. Maybe he has been. Right? He's been there, it seems like forever. And so then you have Burrow coming in, who's only 1 year younger than him. So people that think he's going to go on this big run, I would, if I were guessing right now, I would lean towards him maybe possibly being more like a Marino, where he had a chance to get hot this year, and now he's still in the loaded AFC. Is he really going to be able to beat Mahomes a bunch of times? Is he really going to be able to get through Josh Allen all those times? I mean, let's look and see how old Josh Allen is, because I honestly don't know that one either. But I think he was younger. I wouldn't be surprised if him and Burrow are the same age. Yep, he is 25. So Josh Allen is the same age as Burrow, too. But he's been playing longer because he came out earlier, right? They probably came out when they were like 21. Because this is only Burrow's second year. So you have, man, how many? Because isn't it his second year? He came out, he got hurt, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he missed an entire season, did he? I can't remember now. I'm probably wrong, but I think this is his second year. I think last year he kind of got hurt, and then he never really finished, right?
Right.
And so this year he kind of put it together. But after that second year, they usually have the tape on you, and that's when they really can break you down. So now I wonder, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they came out and went 7-10 next year, or whatever the new records are, 8-9, and don't make the playoffs. But that's my prediction.
Well, I think a big part of that's just going to be how much of that core group do you end up losing to free agency? If you end up having a bunch of guys get cherry picked off of other rosters, and you end up like some of those guys that maybe they're not prominent role players, they're still contributing in the locker room and giving that depth that I think sometimes keeps a team together. Like when you have those teams that go on a consistent run, they have that window where you have your Joe Burrows and you have, those types of players where those pieces are in place for a short period of time, that maybe you swap out a receiver, a linebacker, a defensive back, but there's a core group of people that you have. Like when Pittsburgh went on their runs, you had Roethlisberger, you had Polamalu, you had Harrison. Like there was a core group that was there and that provided that leadership, that when running backs and different people came out, like you could cycle out different people and still maintain that consistency to win.
And that's where, with the Bengals, they keep talking about how they're not built yet. I wonder what their plan even is, what they consider their core group, Like, who are they bringing in? Who are they getting rid of? Because that, like you're saying, maybe they're one of the teams that doesn't really have a core group, and that group kind of just leads them to being a middling team. Almost like, you know how like the Saints with Drew Brees? It was almost like Drew Brees and friends. But they never really had that long-term core group of great players on both sides of the ball, you know?
Yeah.
It always seemed like, hey, we got the next big guy here. Hey, we got the next big receiver. And outside of Chase, I wonder if that's what they're going to try to do. And I wonder if it's just not going to work out. But we'll see, because I honestly think it also depends on what the Steelers do at quarterback and how Baker Mayfield comes back from his injury. Because I think he played so bad this year because he played through injuries. I think it would have been better for him if he just kind of sat out. But he played through them. I think either decision could hurt the locker room. Because they see him play hurt and they're like, well, he's costing us wins now and he's getting his ass kicked. Like, I'm not going to put my effort in. Or vice versa, he just sits out and then next year people are like, yeah, that guy didn't even battle through anything. He just kind of hang out. So I'm not playing my heart out for him. So we'll see what happens there. The big news came out, Matt. I don't know if you saw this, but the Steelers might be interested in Carson Wentz.
I did see that.
If they want me to hate them, that would be the decision that would do it. Why would you get Wentz?
Really? Because he's affordable.
What, Matt? What good would that be? Like, I would never, if they were like, hey, you can have a chance at Jameis Winston. I'm like, all right, I could see that working. There's no way I could say that for Carson Wentz. There's no positive to that. It would be like, cool. Like a slightly more expensive Mason Rudolph, Matt. You might as well just get Nick Foles. I would be excited about that. Like, if you're going to go rehabilitate someone. Or Ryan Fitzpatrick, someone you know that has like a winning upside. Fitzpatrick, he chokes down the late in the game season anyway, but that's what they've had with Ben Roethlisberger for 10 years.
Well, I mean, I can understand why you wouldn't want to get him when Kyler Murray is available.
So Kyler Murray doesn't want the drama, though. And I know Kyler Murray fits your mold of what you think a Steelers quarterback is these days.
It's what it needs to be, dick breath.
A guy running around, like that really describes that. When I hear that, I think, yeah, that's Big Ben. A guy running around like crazy. Not getting hit. Getting hurt, though. That could be him.
Well, Ben ricocheting off 87 blockers as he scrambles around and then throws an 80-yard touchdown.
Hey, Mason Rudolph was taking shots to the head, and he was bouncing right back in the game with the concussion or whatever.
That's right. Well, no, but I think when you look at, like, all of the needs point towards Pittsburgh drafting every single lineman and free agent lineman. And
that's what they said for the Bengals, too. It's like, hey, didn't you guys just realize you played 2 Hall of Famers on defense? Like, just drafting an entire new line doesn't make you the Super Bowl favorites next year. The Steelers need some type of better offense where you know the ball actually gets out of the quarterback's hand so that you don't have all the pressure on the line. And
so you mean throw all those bubble screens that people bitched about for years?
Matt, I'm saying you got to at least run the ball. They didn't even run the ball for the last 3 years. It sucked. The run game was awful.
So you're saying that all teams are struggling, not just the Rams. Gotcha.
Why? Because they can't run? Derrick Henry, my man, has no problem till he hurt his foot, which, God bless him, I hope he comes back 100% healthy. You're putting your keeper on Cam Akers. What a good deal of money, Matt. I hope you got him for cheap.
$1.
At least Derrick Henry, man. I'm putting my money in, and he's going to at least give me some comebacks. McCaffrey, which did you see that one commercial? It was like some video game with all the football players.
McCaffrey sitting at home?
No, it was like all these legendary players, and then McCaffrey's in it. I'm like, what the hell does he even have his uniform on for? He should have just been on the bench.
Just sitting casually in his house.
Yeah, like, what the hell? I'm like, that's him. Like, you couldn't find one other guy from the Panthers to put in Steve Smith. Steve Smith, the guy that actually played forever. Oh, man. So that's my other thing, because like the Panthers down here, they're going crazy. They don't know what to do. They kind of hate Matt Rule now because they thought he was leaving for the Michigan job. So they were like, could you imagine being the coach that was kind of like, hey, you know what? I can have any college job I want. Harbaugh's leaving. I'll probably go to Michigan. And then Harbaugh's like, guys, I don't have a job, so I have to stay here. And then Matt Rule's like, guys, bad news. There's not really any college jobs open right now. It's the beginning of February.
I guess he could have went to Auburn.
Didn't they bring their coach back?
It is the craziest thing that, yes. I don't know that they brought him back as much as they were like, you have to come back to work.
It was really weird that happened. And then the same time, Baylor extended their coach. And then Baylor took it as a win. I'm like, maybe Auburn was after him. And maybe that kind of forced their hand. And maybe that's just a skeptic in me. But I thought that those two things happening at such a weird time, where it was kind of like, hey, Michigan might have been interested in Aranda whenever the Harbaugh thing was going, but it really seemed like they were going to go for like Matt Rule. So it really didn't get serious. And then all of a sudden Auburn or Baylor's like, oh shit, Auburn needs a coach. We've got to extend him. And Baylor was like, see, we waited until after signing day when Michigan and those other jobs were already full. And I'm like, yeah, but the Auburn one wasn't really. You don't know what was going to happen. And I'm sure they weren't going to fire him unless they had another coach. So I wouldn't be surprised if it came out that Auburn had a verbal offer to him. That's my take on it. And I think that would have been a hell of a good hire by them.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're sticking with Harsin or whatever his name is, if you're a fan and you're connecting the dots like I am, I think you have to be a little bit pissed off. But maybe Baylor was like, hell, Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. We can be the top dog. Please do not leave us. We've won in women's and men's basketball. We need to be more of a football school, though, so let's go. We can't hire Art Briles back. Grambling is interesting him. Did you see that?
No.
Grambling's thinking of hiring Art Briles. Nothing says full comeback like that. Which, wouldn't it be weird if he was like the head coach there in a few years?
And then had to play Deion.
Yeah, as I say, against Deion Sanders. Which Deion came out was like, so Michigan had a wide receiver transfer from his school. And Deion came out and was like slamming him, saying that he didn't understand that he pulled his scholarship because he thought he was going to go to the NFL. And I was like, that's kind of weird, though. He tried to offer him a half scholarship so that he couldn't finish his spring semester. And Deion said that he would let him have the spring semester off to train for the NFL because like he wouldn't need his degree anyway. But I'm like, what kind of selling point is that? And what do you need a half scholarship for? Like, are you bringing in another guy early then?
That might have been it.
But I think you can still use that scholarship though. Because like Michigan enrolls how many guys early every year? Like 10. It's not like Harbaugh's cutting 10 scholarships, I don't think.
I don't know.
Because the scholarship doesn't count. If you start early, I think you can just end early and it counts for like that one full year. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Michigan is doing that. I don't know. But it was really weird that he like called him out and was like, yeah, he didn't even get that NFL Combine invite. I'm like, yeah, he got hurt though. He didn't really play that much. But I'm like,
oh, darn.
If you're trying to like call out your own guys, like, yeah, remember when I tried to give you that half scully? You should have took it.
I'm friends with Rich Eisen.
We're making big time deals down here. That could have been you, son. But we'll see, because it wouldn't it be funny if he did make the NFL then? And then on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football, we'll see what school he says. If he says Michigan, then Deion would be all pissed off. Anything else you have for the NFL or football?
No.
All right, I have one last thing in here, the Winter Olympics. So last week I kind of brushed you off about the apps and stuff. And then, of course, because I didn't really care to watch the Olympics before then. And I get up early. Hockey's supposed to be on, right? So I turn on NBC because the United States is playing. It's not like I'm trying to watch like Iceland play whoever, Norway. I was like, I'm trying to watch the United States play. So I sign in or turn on the regular TV. It's the news. So I said, oh, okay, let's check the Olympics app. Because that's what online the thing said. Check the Olympics app. The Olympics app, Matt, has nothing. It's just like a blank screen and then a story where you can watch one of the athletes talk. I'm like, what does that have to do with the Olympics app? This is more like a...
Look at this interview we did 3 years prior.
It's like a Facebook. I'm like, I don't want to watch this. So then I'm like, all right, you know what it has to be? Peacock. Even Notre Dame's playing on Peacock, I'll go to Peacock. Get there? Nope. You have to play for Peacock Plus or something. It's like $9. I'm like, I'm not paying for that. Why the hell am I paying whenever you're promoting to watch the Olympics for free? I've never seen, like, I don't see any ads like, hey, pay for this Olympic plan or whatever it ended up being. And I don't have Peacock because who pays for TV? I don't understand it. If you paid for each network, Fox streaming, CBS streaming, NBC streaming on top of your cable, Matt, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? I can see. So normally what I do is I rotate them. Like if there's a show like on Netflix or something, I'll get that for a month or two. Cancel it. Some months I don't have any because like, why are you watching TV if it's like summertime and you're at the pool or something? So normally I kind of go through, but it's like, I'm not going to pay to watch the United States beat up on some weird team from like, I don't even know who he played, China or something. But like they don't have hockey teams. Although Chris Chelios' son plays for China. I'm like, how the hell is he playing for China?
What?
I'm not even joking, Matt. It's like a bunch of random dudes that aren't from China playing on the Chinese team.
I wonder if that's like when you don't have enough guys to field a team and you're like, yeah, we'll just give you a couple of our guys.
So then I watched the bobsled and it's like the same thing, but for the United States. So the single woman bobsledder for the United States used to bobsled for Canada. And the announcers were like, oh, this is such a great deal for the United States finally getting someone. And I'm like, you're supposed to be supporting the country. How did they just get her? It's not like the transfer portal. The same people that are like complaining about college football transfer portal are celebrating that we got the gold because of a Canadian winning it for the United States team. And how she had to learn her presidents or whatever and then get in as a regular citizen, which they fast-tracked her. It's not like she's down at the DMV at 6 a.m. trying to get in. She's on the Olympic team. I guarantee they just sent her the paperwork and she filled it out. Like, they're not going to breathe like, hey, you know what? You should come bobsled for us. But to do that, you got to be at the DMV and start your paperwork.
Bobsled.
Yeah. And I was like, and then she beat another American. And then I was thinking, like, everyone was celebrating really hard, like the announcers. And I was like, I felt bad for the other girl. Because, like, you would be the number one, even if you won silver in the United States, you would be the top bobsledder. But they, like, just took this transfer to beat you out and win the gold. And they had 2 celebrations going. So it was kind of weird. Like, her team had celebrated the silver, and then a bunch of other random people, which I assume were like her Canadian teams. Because, like, it's not like she's coming in 1 year and, like, her trainers and stuff are all going to be different, I would think, right? So she had her own crew celebrating for her. And to me, it felt very weird. And I'm like, what is this? I can't make fun of China's hockey team that I know whenever their dads were from the NHL, and they're definitely not Chinese. They're just playing on the team. Like, I can't laugh at that if the United States is doing the same exact thing for other sports like bobsled. Like, who cares about bobsled? All I want to see is the 4-man team. And then apparently they don't even have a 4-man women's team. At least that's what they were saying. That now there's enough momentum in the sport where they can finally have a 4-man women's team or 4-woman team or whatever. I'm like, why not? Why not just have that to begin with? You can't find 4 people? Jamaica did it.
Now, wait a minute.
In Cool Runnings, Matt, they got 4 sprinters together with John Candy. He was there. He did something and got out of acting. Remember, he got banished, so he had to start a bobsled team. He found 4 dudes, and then he got back into it. He got back into the good graces because they finished the race when they walked across the line. That's exactly what... They could have a 4-woman team.
So are you saying if they're ever a 4-woman team, they're going to crash because they can't drive?
No, I'm saying, why have all these other variations? Just have the one. It would be like the Super Bowl where it's like, hey, we're having the Super Bowl today, but at the same time, an hour before, we're having a 7-on-7 Super Bowl with other people that are just like, they weren't actually good enough to play in the regular Super Bowl, but they're like, like the AFL version. But they're playing a 7-on-7 though, because they don't really have 11 guys. But you should watch that first though, because NBC has it on the Olympic app or the Super Bowl app. And then, right before that though, they're doing a 5-man scrimmage. It's guys from the Midwest.
Just 5 random guys.
Or no, what's the Iowa League? The 9-man. they have a like a 9-man. They're like, yeah, we have a 9-man squad playing. It's a little bit faster paced because there's not as many people out there blocking. Is it 8-man?
8-man.
Yeah, so they're like, yeah, we have an 8-man Super Bowl going too. That's kind of how it feels like in the Olympics. They have the 1-person bobsledding. They have 2 people bobsledding, but they can't get 4. Just do 4. Then it's kind of like a team sport, If you want to do 1 person, they already have that. It's called luge. And then don't they have 2 people luge? Or am I making that up?
I don't know.
I think that's where.
But now I want to know where the tryouts are. Like, bring your luge. Why wasn't I invited? I believe 2 Olympics ago I said I think I could luge, but I didn't know when the tryouts were.
So you got to go to Crescent Mountain at the summit, and then you slide right down Old 22 or whatever that road is.
I would slide straight down to Mount Aloysius.
Yeah, and then you just hope that a truck's not going up the other side and you swerve into the wrong lane. That's how they know if you can steer or not.
Did you get picked off like Frogger in traffic?
Because I honestly don't know how they pick these sports, Matt. Because like even swim team, like down here, it's like it's really big and lacrosse is really big. But in Pennsylvania, those sports weren't big. So like,
no.
What do you do? Like, is there a different state where luge and bobsled is like really big? Because it's not like you could just go out and practice or say like, hey, you know what? I really like running, but I don't like running more than 10 feet. I need a sport where I just run for 10 feet and then jump in and ride something. Oh, bobsled, perfect. And I know they're running more than 10 feet, but like that's the premise, right?
I can run really fast for 10 feet on ice.
Yeah, you're running on ice because it's not really ice because you have the spikes on. It's
still ice.
Yeah, but you've ice skated. I think we've ice skated together. You know that it's totally different. You know it's totally different, Matt. You remember our figure skating days when we did the 2-man?
Yes, exactly. Like that Russian team, God dropped it right on the melon.
Which I feel bad for the Russian girl because they were like,
I don't ever want to hear about anything CTE related for football when you're wearing a helmet and that girl got dropped straight on her head in front of God and country.
But she kind of twisted out of it.
Oh, she cracked right on the ice.
Which, you know how like gymnastics, they teach you to fall? Like, did they teach you how to crash in skating?
I think that's a natural thing. He's like, oh, you're realizing you're about to hit the ice.
You're like, oh my God, my neck's going to be broken. But it always reminds me of like NHL player that got his jugular cut. And like, you really can't train for that. And with all the COVID stuff, if she would have really been hurt, like, would anyone even went out and touched her? She just lays out there.
Just real gently drag her off the ice.
Only the partner can resuscitate her. Someone's barking him commands. Can you feel the pulse? I don't know what I'm looking for. So, but then there was the other girl that, the one that I think was really good. I think I told you that they were telling me. So last week, I can't remember if I talked about everything, but I really didn't understand how the scoring was going. And apparently it's not only me, snowboarders are also complaining because they're not being consistent with it. They're just kind of like picking random scores. And like I said last week, you shouldn't be scoring 30 points higher than someone else in the Olympics. It's not like amateurs where you're playing against like a D1 high schooler and you're like, oh yeah, that guy has an offer from Duke. Oh, I got it. It's like, and then everyone else is like 5 foot tall. Like, no, the skaters are all kind of doing the same exact thing. It's not 30 points better. But then they started showing the advanced metrics. Like, look how far her jump was, 8 feet. But again, they didn't show that for any of the other jump or skaters. So then I didn't know, like, what's a good feet then? Are the other ones doing 4 feet? 5? Like, how much is she 33 feet better? Is that where the 30 points come from? But now it turns out that she had a heart issue possibly and might have taken a heart med. And I'm like, how is that even performance enhancing? It's not like a steroid, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
So they were like, "Oh yeah, she tested positive in on Christmas, so we knew that it was positive." And I'm like, "Then why is she skating at all?" So they're going to let her continue to skate, Matt. But if she wins a medal, which I'm pretty sure she was the one in first, unless I read the name wrong or watched a different girl and just don't remember, because it looked like her. I'm pretty sure she's winning the gold. They're not going to have a medal ceremony. Like, I don't know how you can be 30 points up and then not win. Unless, like, the first 2 days were, like, some weird, like, where she was just playing a bunch of scrubs. Maybe, I don't know. But, like, now they're just not going to have a ceremony and then do it later after they decide if she should take her medal away. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, they're like, she's like 15. So, like, isn't everyone still growing? Do 15-year-olds really benefit from steroids? Isn't it more of like a recovery thing when you're like in your 20s? I don't know. But that's my last thing I have for the Olympics. Really weird. More performance-enhancing drugs. You hear about it. They don't know. I know all the banned substances, but if you know that someone's testing positive, don't let them do whatever. Don't let them put on an awesome performance. Where now I'm like, well, no, if they take away her gold, it's like no one else is even close to her. There's no way a heart medicine made her that much better.
Yeah.
If she's really jumping extra feet longer than all the other girls and landing all these extra tricks, it's like, okay. All right, then give her the gold. Like, oh, you know what? She has a arrhythmia. She needs to take a pill, so that's disqualification. Like, oh, what a waste of her life, you know? It's like, oh, what a waste of all that training for nothing. And now people are just going to remember you for that, thinking that you cheated. So I want to see what happens. I also don't like there's no Russia, but we're going to keep calling the other team Russia. And we're just going to name them ROC on the list, which, what does that even stand for? Russian Olympic Committee or something like that? I don't even know.
Russian Olympic champions.
Like, if you're going to say, hey, Russia's not allowed, but then on the medal count, you're like, look at Russia up there, number one. It's like, okay, what's the point of the ban? It's almost like the Redskins when they like kept the logo or whatever. Like, we're not going to say Redskins anymore, but it's still there. So you're going to see it and you're going to know. But it was like the reverse. It'd be almost like if they took the picture of the Indian off, but they still called themselves the Redskins and kept like the Indian stuff. That's how it is with the Russians, right? It's like they're not allowed to compete. Russia's not allowed to compete, but you can keep calling them Russians, and they're all going to be part of this ROC group, which clearly has Russia or Russians in it, right? Unless it stands for Republic of Olympic something. I'm going to look it up. What is the ROC? Oh, it's one of the top searches right here. And oh, here's an explainer, NBC Sports, which opens a video to them on Facebook, which is stupid. It's an abbreviation, isn't for a country. Matt, ROC does not stand for the country. It stands for the name of the Russian Olympic Committee. We're calling it the ROC for short. What the hell? That's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
They're not flying under their own flag, but rather under the iconic 5-ring Olympic banner. But if you're just calling them the Russians, what is the difference? It's literally in the name. They were just like, hey, we can't write Russia up here. Well, how can we work Russian in?
Everyone will think we're going to invade the Ukraine.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and put that in there while we're winning. Have a bunch of controversy around the world anyway. So that's all I have. I don't even know. Do you have anything for the final bell?
No.
All right, it's been a crazy show. Unfortunately, football's over. You know what I looked? I'm like, oh, I wonder when the USFL starts. April something. I'm like, that doesn't help me. How am I going to watch football now? What am I going to do? I need the XFL. And then The Rock coming out and doing his like weird flex and his eyebrow thing. It's like, bro, you on the XFL. Where's your XFL shirt? Why are you out here doing this? Are they paying you? If you would have came out with an XFL shirt, I would have lost my mind, Matt. I don't even think I would have remembered any of the Super Bowl. I would have blacked out immediately. So That's what I want to see. Instead, I just got him like going back like it's 1990, and then they played a bunch of 1990s rap songs with some other guy mixed in that I didn't know. And it's like, why is he even there? I forgot that there was even another guy when I talked about the halftime show.
Oh.
Too many people. So that's all. Come back. We'll start getting into some free agent talk. Like I said, hopefully Wentz doesn't move to the Steelers. Or even worse, if he moves to the Packers, Matt, oh my gosh. I don't even know what I would do. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.